Okay, so before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Tonight's public meeting is to hear comments, receive questions or concerns on the following applications. 1, Hidden Valley Plan of Subdivision Phase 3, Malpeck Road, PID number 1047562, presented by Laurel Palmer Thompson as staff member and Will Safaris as presenter and owner. And I notice Alan Aiken in the audience. Alan is with TIE. He is a traffic engineer, so if he has to be called upon, I'm sure that Laurel will refer to him. Montgomery Heights Plan of Subdivision Lot 160 Fairdale Drive, PID number 192153, presented by, again, Laurel Palmer Thompson. Presenter will be Derek French for the applicant. Then 421 St. Peter's Road, PID number 464586. Our manager of development, David Gundrum, will present. And on behalf of the owner, Jeff Doucette. 20 St. Martha's Court, Lot 2019-3, PID number 1115494-7. It'll be presented by our staff member, Brandon Archibald. And I don't have any owner presenter. It is Aaron Stavard. So Aaron Stavard. I'll just note that. Okay, and it's quite obvious we are back to in-person meetings at this time. Resident citizens will have the option to participate via Microsoft Teams if they prefer. The meeting is also live streamed on YouTube, and a recording of this meeting can be accessed after the meeting just by going to the video link, charlottetown.ca video/video. So members of council here tonight, Councillor Tweel, Councillor McCabe, Councillor Beck, Councillor Duran is coming in by phone, Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Mattard is not here this evening, Councillor Ramsey, Councillor Tweel, as I said, Councillor McAleer, Councillor Bernard, and Deputy Mayor Alana Yankoff. And I know that for planning board members, because any discussion or information from these presentations tonight will go to the planning board, and there'll be another meeting. And our planning board tonight, I think, is Rosemary Herbert. She's present. So, looking at the I'm going to call on right now Deputy Mayor Yankoff to briefly go over the order of events, and then I'll open the meeting. Deputy Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship. Welcome, everybody. Just to go over the order of the presentations this evening. So there'll be a brief presentation by staff, and then followed by the applicants. After the presentation, you folks will be given an opportunity to speak on the actual application and presentation that you've just seen. Each participant will be provided with 5 minutes, and we just ask that we all respect that time limit. This gives you your time to comment and ask questions to either the applicant or to the planning staff. So, and we always start with the members of the public that are here. Then we'll proceed to those joining in via Teams, and then we'll ask council members. They'll be allowed to ask questions for clarity, but just a reminder to all of you, us councillors, we're here to not offer opinions and to remain neutral during this public meeting. And just a reminder, and I know we all know this, just in terms of when others are speaking, we just ask that we show respect and decorum to the others that are here in the room in case you do have opposing views on things. We ask anyone with cell phones just to put them on silent. And when you're asked to speak, if you could just speak clearly and just identify that you're like the area to which you're from. So thank you so much, and I'll turn it back over to His Worship.
Okay, we got a hand raised. If you're going to speak, just go to the mic. And again, please speak clearly. I think he wants a clarification here.
So I just want to ask, the people that are in the public who are allowed to ask the questions, is it just regarding to this group here, or the people who are on the other side watching by television?
Yeah, it's open. Yeah, it's open. Yeah, they can come in. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of being in a open hall like the Charlottetown Hotel, we're broken into three areas: Parkdale Room, the foyer, and the gallery. So first order of business, I have to call to order any declarations of interest or declaration of conflict.
I have one, Mayor Brown.
Yeah, and what one is that, Councillor Duran? Number one?
That would be the first one in Hidden Valley.
Okay, so you know that you'll have to step out and then probably call back in to connect, okay?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so the approval of the agenda, you have the four applications I read off. I need someone to move. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, second by Councillor Ramsey. All those in favor? Councillor Duran?
In favor?
Okay, sir, thank you kindly. So, first presentation, Hidden Valley Plan of Subdivision Phase 3, Malpeck Road, PID number 1047562, Laurel Palmer Thompson. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, ladies and gentlemen of the public. This is a request to rezone Phase 3 of the Hidden Valley subdivision, Malpeck Road, a portion of PID number 1047562. So it's a request to amend Appendix A, the future land use map of the City of Charlottetown official plan from low-density residential to high-density residential, and to amend Appendix G, the zoning map of the City of Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw from low-density residential single R2S zone to apartment residential zone. And this is the subject property outlined in red. So the property, it's a 21.3 acre parcel of land. It's bounded to the north by a wetland and watercourse and additional R2S zoning. So to the north, the wetland isn't shown. To the east by Malpeck Road and Country View Estates. So the highway's here, Country View Estates. And it's consisting of low-density residential units in that subdivision. And to the south by vacant land zoned R2S, right here. And to the west is additional low-density residential along this area. So, the details of the request, specifically the request is intended to allow for multi-unit residential development consisting of apartment dwelling units in the form of 10 separate apartment buildings, approximately 600 units in total on 10 lots. The proposal is to rezone approximately 8.2 acres of land located, oh, sorry, wrong slide. Excuse me. This is Hidden Valley, but for some reason, the slides are reversed. Sorry. Yeah, that's Montgomery.
Just a technical glitch.
Yes, it is a technical glitch, and I apologize.
That's all right.
Yes, okay, so it is 8.2 acres, and for to R4B apartment residential zone. Actually, let me flip to something. Yeah, for some reason, we had a boo-boo here.
Laurel, are you using the same report that was emailed to us?
I am using the presentation I did today, and for some reason, the slides got interchanged.
Okay.
Which wasn't like that earlier, but So I do apologize for that. But I believe it was 21 acres of land to be rezoned. And the purpose of the rezoning is to rezone from R2S zoning to apartment residential, high-density residential. So it would be approximately 600 lots in total, or 600 units in total for total build-out, 10 lots. So, as per the legislative requirements, in accordance with Section 3.10.4, amendments to the bylaw and the rezoning of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, on January 8th, 2024, City Council approved the request to proceed to public consultation, and on January 9th, 2024, written notifications were sent to property owners located within 100 meters of the subject property. In total, 121 letters were sent to residents advising them of the public meeting and requested their written comments, and we received 12 written responses to the notification letter. Predominantly, the responses were in support. We did receive one in opposition. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dan Whalen, who is here to speak to the application.
Okay, so Dan, it's just you, not Will Severus?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so, excuse me, it was Dan Whalen with Landmark?
Should be now. Good.
Laurel, is he continuing yours or is this a different one?
No, you have to pull up his.
Okay.
Dan, are you using notes? Or, because it may be more effective to hold the mic,
Sure, yeah.
because,
I thought they said they turned it on for me, I'd asked, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can hold the mic. That's fine.
yeah, I think that may be better, yeah.
problem.
Because you do have a group of people in the foyer.
Okay, perfect. So my name's Dan Whalen. I'm one of the developers of Hidden Valley. I'd just like to first thank council and the mayor for coming tonight to hear a proposal, and hopefully we can work together to make this a success for everybody. So I'll give you a brief overview of what Hidden Valley is, for those you don't know. It's a 73-acre parcel in the northwest corner of the city, located off Malpeck Road between the Cat dealership and the Mel's Petro-Canada. Phase 1 was completed 2 years ago and consisted of 96 R2 duplex lots. Many of those are currently being built on or have homes under construction. And the second phase was completed this fall, and it consisted of 49 single-family lots, which building will start in the spring. And then we're here tonight for a proposal of rezoning to have 10 apartment lots on the remaining land. So to date, there's been 10 acres allocated for green space and parkland. That represents about 13% of the total development. And through our meetings with Frank and Nancy from the Parks Department, we understand that there's going to be a public park put in place, and there'll also be walking trails built along both sides of the stream that divides the property. And there's also a mature tree line that borders the entire property, so it gives a natural buffer between the existing Highfield subdivision and also to Malpeck Road. So the 10 building lots that we're proposing will range in size from 1.96 acres to 2.64 acres. And based on the current bylaw from the city density that allow for 60-unit apartment buildings to be built on each one of those, while still meeting the requirements for green space on each of the lots. The final design and look of the buildings will come together in the planning stages after. We're going to sell some of the lots and then develop some ourselves, so that part will take place through the planning process. So to date, we have 2 approved accesses from the Department of Transportation. There's one to the north, which will be a right in and right out. So cars traveling south into the city can only turn right into the development, and then cars leaving the development can only turn right and head back into the city. So through our meetings with the department, they felt that by having one of the accesses only right in, right out, it would alleviate any traffic concerns or safety concerns. And then the second access will be across from Country View Drive, and that will be a controlled intersection. So it would start as a set of traffic lights, and then as occupancy starts in the buildings, their intent is to have a roundabout constructed there. And then we'll have and there'll also be a third future access to the south that will allow for a connector road to be built to Sherwood Road once the neighboring property is developed in the future. And there'll be no connection to the current Hidden Valley subdivision. So when we started phase one, the residents in the area had concerns over traffic flowing into Highfield. So we had a traffic study completed. Harborside Engineering completed the traffic study, and they deemed that Highfield could withstand the traffic increase from the subdivision. But we felt, since they had so much concern regarding that we had the two traffic access points onto Malpeck Road from the department, that we wouldn't connect the two to alleviate any more traffic being brought into that existing subdivision. And then this is just a map outlining, so the yellow are proposed. The green space is all the parkland that has been set aside. The blue represents the stream that runs between them. The larger blue section is phase one, that was the R2 lots, and then the pink is the single-family lots. So with this development, we're also going to have restrictive covenants in place. They'll include all the garbage for each building will be required to be stored inside a building, so it's not out in the open. All the facade and all the design will have to be approved, so it's aesthetically pleasing. Each building will be required to meet certain energy efficiency requirements. There'll be underground electrical throughout the whole development and towards each building. And each building will be required to meet certain landscape requirements. So these are some renderings of what we hope that the subdivision will look like when it's built out. So you can see that there's 10 buildings, and then the one at the bottom of the screen would be the right in, right out, and then the one up at the higher end across from Country View would be where the Department of Transportation plans to put a future roundabout once the infrastructure upgrades are done. And this is another one showing sidewalks and lighting. The right-of-way has been designed in a way that once the buildings are completed, the sidewalks can be installed, and then they'll be able to connect to these trails, so the other side of Hidden Valley and Highfield can access here. We've also had a number of meetings with T3 Transit. So currently they have a bus stop on Malpeck Road across from the Country View entrance. So through our meetings, they agreed that if we had a bus stop in there, they could move the bus stop off the busy Route 2 and simply use the right in to come in, and then use the controlled intersection to get the bus back on and head back into the city. This is just another map outlining just the R4 section that we're proposing. So with this, obviously there'll be a number of benefits to this development. The province estimates that we're currently 5,000 units short to meet our demand, and we'll need another further 2,600 units per year just to keep up with the demand. So this development would only represent roughly 10% of our, just slightly more than 10% of our current needs. It'll also represent between $150 and $180 million in direct generating for island companies. And it'll also reduce the urban sprawl by going with higher density. We feel that the project is directly in line with the city's current draft official plan to increase density along transportation corridors. And it also will help bring new infrastructure to the area. So currently, Country View and Penny Lane have trouble with access. Last year they received turning lanes into the subdivision, but by having this development, it'll expedite the province's plan to upgrade infrastructure along and to get them a roundabout that'll help them easier access the road in a safer manner. So that's about all we have, and like I said, thanks for your time, and if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them the best we can, and appreciate your time.
Okay, so we'll open the floor up to the residents so that they can get an opportunity to ask questions.
Put the picture up, please.
Yeah, sir, just 1 second. I just wanted to really make sure that,
Ready for questions.
yeah. So please, as the deputy mayor stated, state your name and just where you're from, Winslow, Charlottetown, so forth. And it's open to the gallery and also the foyer, and anywhere in between.
All right. I have to say that it would have been nice to,
Can you
yeah.
give your name, Mr. Crawford? I know it.
Yeah, my name is George Crawford. Thank you for hearing us tonight. The residents of the subdivisions, Penny Lane and Country Drive, have had some concerns about this development. I presented a petition with 108 signatures showing that that many people are concerned about this. As I say, I wish the developers had come together and, or even our counselor had come together and talked to us about this. We still have a lot of concerns about this. One that I noticed there is roundabout. A roundabout is not going to take care of 800, 1,000 cars coming across the intersection from Country View Drive. It's just not going to do it. You're going to have more access than that, for sure. One of the other things, there's a lot of information that could have been provided and hasn't been provided. You talk about transportation report showing these intersections and sidewalks. We've been asking for a sidewalk in Winslow for 20 years to go from the bypass up to the village of Winslow. I don't see any provisions here for that sidewalk, for sure. I look at the development. It looks great. There's no doubt about that. But there's a lot of information missing. This is a huge development. There's no fire services report. You're telling us tonight. You could have saved people a lot of time if you let the residents know in advance what was going on here. Now, you say that you're going to be putting your waste management is going to be in the buildings. What do you mean in the buildings themselves? Like,
Dan, could you just, he can, if he can just take the mic, Mr. Crawford,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
being publicly recorded,
Yeah.
so it's for the minutes.
So the intent would be to have outbuildings where the garbage would be stored inside the buildings, not themselves, in separate buildings outside of the building.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting because I don't see any of those buildings on your site plans. And we both know, if you're familiar with 2 and 46 Riverside Drive, the large apartment building's probably about the same size as the one that you're going to be building. They have quite large buildings to accommodate these green bins, black bins, and recycled material and cardboard. And you'll notice that they're quite some distance from those buildings because of fire hazard in particular. Now, I'm questioning, where are you going to put those buildings? I don't see any place on your site plan here for what I consider you would need 6 of them. You're going to need at least, 600 green bins and black bins for the number of tenants you're going to be putting in those buildings. And that's not counting recycling. So that's one of the issues, is we don't have a report from fire services. They could have provided that. Police service report. I mean, you've got a small town going across the subdivision from us. We have some serious concerns about, you know, policing, 10, 60-unit buildings, 600 units, possibly 1,000, 1,500, more, 1,500 people in those buildings.
Mr. Crawford,
Yeah.
that bell was to ring 5 minutes. So
Okay.
do you just have a couple
It's
more?
5 minutes now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is unfortunate, but this is the way it is.
Yeah, but you can forward an email to us.
Thank you. Many of the other residents and neighbors here will carry this on, but all I can say is that this, although this project looks very good, I question the need to have 600 units in this area. We need them in downtown Charlottetown. We need them in the core. We don't need 600 units 5 kilometers from the center of the city. We need them from Belvedere down to the waterfront. That's where the city should be consolidating land and putting some of these 60-unit buildings.
Okay.
The village of Winslow, the landlords up there, they're doing a great job providing for apartments out here. And they build them as needed, when needed and as needed.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
This is,
Yeah, no, I know.
it's just too big, in the wrong place, unnecessary. And it's going to be a hell of a, it's going to affect the quality of life of every tenant or every owner, property owner, taxpayer in our subdivisions. Some of us have been there for 40, 60 years.
Okay.
And we weren't even notified of this. Weren't even notified of it. The same as the paving plant. So I'm going to turn it over. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you, sir.
hearing me. I'm going to turn it back over, and thank you for hearing me
Thanks,
too.
Ed.
We'll turn it over to the rest of the
Yeah.
citizens. of-
Thank you.
Okay?
Just, Dan, do you want to respond? If you could just get up, Dan, and put the mic back there when you're done.
Yeah, just to answer a couple of his questions. So with regards to the sidewalk, through our meetings with the province, it was determined that we'd give additional space along our property to allow for an active transportation trail to be constructed as the infrastructure upgrades were done to the road. And then as to the point of the increase of traffic, at full build-up, this development would represent approximately 2.5% to 3% increase on Malpeque Road on their daily average.
Thank you. Yeah,
You
no,
asked me.
George,
I think-
George, we're just trying to open it up. We have a lot of
Okay, yeah,
people here.
I just wanted to know,
Go ahead.
are those sidewalks going right to the village of Winslow?
Yeah, that would be the plan, is right from Mel's right in.
Okay, thank you. And Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, that section of highway between the bypass and where Winslow Road splits, that's provincial highway, is it not?
Route 2 from the bypass towards Kensington is under the jurisdiction of the province,
Okay, thank you.
much like Route 2 east
Yeah.
through East Royalty.
Okay, sir, go to the mic and just give us your name and, we're just getting the residents first.
Can I get a picture up of the
His presentation?
21 acres, the Hidden Valley?
Yeah.
Sorry, my name's Adrian Green. I live right at the intersection of Country View and Malpeque.
Yeah. So, are we able to get what he's looking for? We won't take that off your minutes of presentation.
Sorry, what's that?
No, we'll just, we'll start your 5 minutes when you get the presentation up here.
Okay.
Which one are you looking for?
Just a plan view from above, whatever I don't need the 3D.
Who's got control of them?
Sorry?
You guys will have to run that with your flicker. There you go.
Okay, which one are you looking at?
The aerial ones with the 10 units.
Okay, just
If you
keep
don't
going
mind,
there, Earl.
please.
There it is.
Nope, not that one. That one.
Okay,
Okay. I live, can I get a pointer? I'll show you, actually. I live right here. Now, I'm the one who's going to get affected most by this, probably because there's going to be, right now, the traffic, they put in those egress and egress, whatever, one lane dedicated each way to turn. There's still speeding going on. We have no sidewalks, as they mentioned, to the village. That's another issue. Okay, with the design, I have a problem. First is the 10 units. I find it's not mixed. I have a problem that, one, you don't know what kind of residency you will all get in there. Maybe that will be to be determined. I have a problems with the asphalt and the parking. Why is there no underground parking when they're complaining and we need more green space? There is no courts for youth. There's no daycare indication as multi-use. If you're going to have 1,200 people living in there, you're certainly going to have babies coming. And I would love not to see, this is a scenario possibly that UPEI and Holland College could buy 4 or 10 or all those units and make them into student residences. I have nothing against student residences, but I live right across the road from them. There'd be noise parties and stuff like that. I know when the school starts, they party. When the school ends, they party. My place is the first place that would be, oh, we have access points. I don't see necessarily, there is a little green space park area on the other side of the creek with a little bridge across. Now, for someone to walk down from one of these lower right-hand apartments, no, that's okay. I just find it very hard for, if you're going to have 60 units and all these people are living in that area, you really don't want to wander that far out of sight from mom and dad's house or apartment. So it's just, even though right now, okay, from the fire point of view, they mentioned earlier, the city bought a fire station, land for it, hasn't done anything for it in the last little while, no mention. Right now, I took a neighbor to a hospital January 1st. We waited there 12 hours before he was admitted at 1 o'clock in the morning. If you got any accident in there, or say there's an airport runway coming through there, there's, if anything of an accident happened with mass casualties, our hospital can't handle them in a runway, debris, whatever. So busing is a transportation. He shows 2 lanes for Route 2. That will eventually become a 4-lane highway. My property value will go downhill, and my taxes will probably all go up. And I see a lot of problems with it. Mainly right now is I'm against the density of it. I would love to see multi-use, multicultural, but in a proper way. I would like to see the city and the province get involved, that instead, because if it's sold to individual developers, they will go at it by themselves, and it will not, I don't know if you have, what do you call the planning things when they have to adhere to certain, what's that? Covenants. So anyway, I just find it's like, it could be a great, great project, but you're at the point right now, and if it starts off on the wrong side, I said, get it right the first time right now, because the province and the city are all involved. If you don't make neighbors happy with your development, it's going to be nicknamed or given a bad name down the road. And everyone will say, oh, well, you lived in that area. Oh, yeah, that's the area. That's the really, we don't want to go there anymore. You know what I mean? It's just like there are spots. I was like, what is the rest of the plans for the others? I was like, why do they have to control all of this area, or why is it picked on right now? I could see not so heavily concentrated designs. It's coming. I know the city has to have it. They're expanding. I probably could say a lot more, and I'm sure other people will. So anyways, thank you.
Right on the minute, 5 minutes. Thank you kindly, sir. So the mic is open.
I'll be brief. My name is Jacqueline. I live on Windermere Drive. There are several issues. First of all, where is the low-cost housing? This is a premium development, right? And I believe the law says there must be a certain percentage of low-cost housing. Where the hell is the low-cost housing in this stuff that's been built already? They're all going for like nearly 500,000 apiece. Where's the low-cost housing? Next. Was there an environmental study done and a drainage study done? The back of my property is washing away because the developer dug it all out. This stream, Ellen's Creek, all those buildings, all these people in there, don't you think it's going to become the public sewer? People chucking stuff in there? And my final comment is, you can tell from my accent I'm British. If you go to London, there's a very famous borough in London called Tower Hamlets. Tower Hamlets. Have a look, see the problems they have. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to come up? Just give your name and...
Here, Kieran Cleveland. I'm a new resident here in Hidden Valley. My partner and I closed on a house end of October. So on that map, I would be right across the Hidden Valley subdivision on Stanmore Drive there. So we're the only house actually developed right now and lived in, the duplex, on that street. So I feel I have, a number of future residents to speak for here. I have a number of concerns here, a number that have been addressed already. The high density, there is no transition zone here. And quite frankly, a stream with trees there cannot be called a buffer. Right now, there is still a driveway across the stream from the highway there, which would have gone to the old farmhouse. So that allows access for all those residents to walk into my subdivision, which currently there's no streetlights, there's no sidewalks. I'm concerned about the safety and security of my neighborhood. As well, green space. 10 acres sounds like a lot, but I can't picture it. A walking trail along a creek there and a park on my side, that's not 10 acres. How much of that is usable? I don't think 10 acres is. My partner and I moved to the Hidden Valley subdivision from an apartment downtown. So when I moved here 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to rent an apartment downtown to be close to amenities, to be able to walk to Victoria Park, to restaurants, to businesses. Now, we decided to purchase a family home in a low residential area, considering distance to employer. So we're closer to employment now. Just a quiet neighborhood for families to start a family. Schools, have those been considered at all in this development? You put thousands of people here. What's going to happen to our schools? Now, quite frankly, with this scale of development, I think all of these things, I would not have bought the place I live in now if I knew this was going to go forward. And thank you all councilors for listening to me. Trevor, I know you're now the ward of this area, so this is our first meeting, and I hope he can do a lot of good things for the neighborhood here.
Thank you, sir. Dan, did you want to just address some of the comments?
Yeah, just regarding the streetlights in the Hidden Valley. So there will be streetlights installed there. They were on back order from Maritime Electric. So once they get their full supply, then they'll be installed throughout the subdivision.
In Eleanor, do we take over those after or before the lights are installed? Eleanor? Or Laurel?
Yes, Your Worship. When a subdivision plan is approved, the city takes over the deed for the streets, and generally the lighting falls after we take over the deed for the street because either Maritime Electric is installing the poles, or in some instances, the developer is waiting for light standards. It just depends on supply right now since COVID, especially if they're installing underground power with street lights. It does take a while to get those that material.
Thank you. Okay. It's open, the mic. If there's anyone in the foyer, please take the, great. Just give your name and your area. Thank you.
My name is Colleen Henderson. I live in Country View Estates, which I just learned it's called. I don't think we can support a high-density neighborhood going in there. I think it needs to stay low density. West Royalty is busting at the seams. If you go to the French immersion school that's zoned for our area, it's busting at the seams. We haven't even talked about anything past that. Like, schools are so important, and there is no green space in this city. There are so many kids on sports teams that have nowhere to play. We need to talk about green space too. Like, there's just so many problems. You cannot put a high-density dwellings in there. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just give us your name and area.
Roger Sharon. I live at 122 Longview Drive in Highfield Heights. Your Worship, councilors, Dan, and the rest of the developers. Now, Dan, you had mentioned that there was matured tree line for your next phase. Well, between Hidden Valley subdivision and Highfield Heights subdivision, there was a matured tree line also that we had the understanding that they were going to be left. Thank God I still have some trees, but there's no development behind my back doors yet. But I'm asking, the trees between Highfield and Hidden Valley, they were supposed to have stayed. They're missing. Now, is this going to be the same thing with your development, that once you get going, are those mature trees going to be taken down also? Just a question. Next thing I would like to ask, you have two exits going out of the new development. I'm not against development, but when they started the first phase, us as Highfield Heights residents were concerned about the traffic. We asked the provincial government, nope, no exits onto the Malpeque Road. We asked the city of Charlottetown, nope, no exits onto the Malpeque Road, which they could very well have been. So we had to suck up the dust, the traffic, the speeding, and I'll tell you, there was a mighty hell of a lot of trucks going by my door. How come you can have two exits now with a new phase, but none with the first phase onto the Malpeque Road? Thank you. Mr. Whalen?
Thank you, Roger. Mr. Whalen, is two questions.
So the first question regarding the trees, the intent is to keep all the trees as possible. There were some trees that were removed by private owners after they bought the lots and the constructed homes within the subdivision. And then as regards to his second question about the access points, I'll answer it the best I can, I guess. So my understanding is why we've been able to gain access here is that it would allow for a controlled intersection to be put in across from Country View, which is already an existing subdivision. Whereas if we had it In the first phase, there's no existing subdivision across the road, so it would be putting an intersection to nowhere, where here, there's an existing one, and it's something that the province wanted to do anyways, so this kind of was in line with what they want to do. That kind of right, Alan?
Fair statements, I think.
Perfect.
So, Alan, so that is the decision from TIE, Transportation Infrastructure Energy, that
We are prepared to accommodate 2 access points to this subdivision, and I think Dan's right in the sense that it connects or allows for controlled access to the existing subdivision that's serviced through Country View. So it's supplying access to both sides.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions from the audience here? Okay, just state, yeah, go. Yeah. Just state your name and,
Sure. Good evening, Andrea Battison, Charlottetown. I'd like to direct some of my questions really to the point that what a few of the earlier presenters have pointed out is that this is a small community, it's a small village, 600 units, you're looking at 1,200 to 1,800 people. And small villages, small communities need resources. And looking at the draft official plan that's on the city's website, this area also falls into the zones called future land use with urban expansion. And I would hope that council would take into, and planning board would take into consideration some of the points that are there, that's saying that these areas have to be proactively planned with commercial features, community amenities, all within a walkable distance. We're trying to get to sustainable communities, lower reliance on private vehicles. That is a private vehicle requirement area. I looked on a map, which if you looked at a bigger map of the city rather than just this little condensed area, I looked for a grocery store, and unless I missed something, a full-service grocery store is in Royalty Crossing or Walmart, and I certainly don't want to be walking that far to get groceries. If you're putting families in here, where are the amenities? Where is the community engagement? This is housing only, and this is a whole community. And people should be able to live, work, possibly recreate, and enjoy themselves outside and inside and safely, having good play areas for themselves, their children. And this is all in your draft official plan. It's section 3.2.6, urban expansion, and this area is classic. I'll read again. Charlottetown's boundaries into a fiscally, socially, and environmentally viable community. I don't see a community there. I see a bunch of apartment blocks that need private vehicles to get access to any services. And in these days when you used to have a 1-2 car household, if you're at home with a child and your partner is in the city with the vehicle, because I don't know how much transit will be there, there's some discussion about it, how are you going to get to groceries? How are you going to get perhaps a sick child to a doctor? Just think about it and make this these kind of areas are to be developed as socially and environmentally viable communities. And I would hope that planning would take that into consideration with the goals of the new official plan to make our more sustainable communities. And I would apply those comments to any of the other developments that are being proposed this evening. And thank you.
thank you, Andrea. Yep. Mr. Flynn.
Sterling Flynn. We live in Country View Estate. How many of the apartments are seniors? What is affordable housing? What do you rate the seniors to be taken in for income to be able to afford these units? There's no sign of parking spaces for the buildings. All them, there's no, like, for visitors or the tenants themselves. Like, how are they, where they're gonna park? There's none of that stuff shown in the plan.
As I said, the mic is open. I think, Laurel, if you go to one of the drawings there with the parking, is that part of the, we have a paper copy, but the digital copy's there. Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Flynn?
Where's your parking spaces? There's 6 of them. How many units is in the building?
Just come to the mic, just please. There's,
How many apartments is in the building? How many parking spaces is allowed for each one? What about visitors? Is there any spaces for the visitors that comes to the building?
okay. Yeah, just one.
So as part of the application process for the building permit, each one of the buildings will be required to meet the city's bylaw for parking, and that would also include visitor spaces, I do believe, through part of the bylaw. And I guess I'd also answer the previous lady's question about not being close to amenities. It is within 2.5 kilometers of the nearest grocery store, and there would be, like I said, bus stops as we're trying to get on to more greener energy. So there'd be bus stops for people to access, and with the implementation of active transportation trails, it would allow for the residents to walk to nearby amenities if they so chose to.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone out in the foyer that wishes to make comment, ask a question? Okay, so we can open it up. And again, the questions from council is just to clarify some of the points made by the proposal, or that isn't Laura Palmer Thompson, or the proponent of the plan, Dan Whalen. Councillor Twill.
Thank you. One of the earlier speakers talked about the province and the city of Charlottetown working together. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, one of the things that I'm concerned about, and I'm glad Mr. Aiken is here tonight, is could you, and I think when we approved to go to the public consultation process, I said to the councillor for the ward, maybe we can invite someone from the province to come here and be able to give, get a bit of an insight as to what the requirements would be from an infrastructure perspective. So we've heard about lack of sidewalks. We heard about lack of lighting, other transportation needs and requirements. And Alan, could you elaborate on what the provincial, if this project was to go ahead, what the provincial government is committed to do in terms of those infrastructure necessities? Because what I've found, and some major developments in my ward, like, you know, I'm struggling with infrastructure requirements, and I think the gentleman here that's proposing this development is trying to be proactive. I know there's many concerns from the residents, but I think, you know, from an engineering perspective, you could shed a lot of light on what those necessities are. And please, if you could, just outline those very important infrastructure requirements.
I will try to
Mr.
answer
Aiken.
your question for you, Mitch. From the province's perspective, since we own the road and are responsible for the traffic movement on that section of highway, we are prepared to put the signals in place to signalize that intersection. There would be area lighting within the influence area of that intersection. But in terms of other amenities, say sidewalk is a municipal responsibility. It can be placed within the provincial right-of-way. In terms of an active transportation trail, it can be permitted within the right-of-way if there's room also. I would suggest that's probably the responsibility of the city too, to provide those facilities. There are cost-sharing arrangements that may be available, especially for active transportation, that the proponent, being the city, may apply to the province under the active transportation funds. That's how we could contribute a share of the cost to active transportation.
Just to follow up, thank you, Alan. So, just so I understand this correctly, the province owns the road, but you just stated it's up to the municipality to provide the sidewalks or active transportation? I'm confused there.
The sidewalks are a municipal responsibility. As I said, I would suggest that the active transportation trail, if there is one required by the city, that there is probably funding in place that could be used it's probably a three-party agreement, I'd say, probably federal, provincial, and municipal, such that that active transportation trail could be realized.
And street lighting?
Street lighting within the influence area of the intersection, we will accommodate.
Okay. Councillor McKinnon?
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I ask some questions, I just want to state something that under the official plan, section 3.1.1 states that our policy shall be to have the responsible municipal departments ensure that adequate infrastructure and services facilities are in place prior to or are developed concurrently with a new development. So there's nothing in place there yet. I will state, I met with the minister and the deputy minister and Mr. Ayton and other gentlemen today, and some information came to light that the control lights were going to be set in place down the road. They confirmed to me today the control lights for Country View will be in place this fall, starting September or October. So that will help with construction traffic going on. But with that, to Dan, has there been an environmental assessment done?
Yes, there has been. So as part of our initial application with the city, the Department of Environment had to do their due diligence. We had a wetland delineation report done. There were wetlands, some designated wetlands around the original farmhouse. So to remediate those, we used an excavator to scoop up. There was wetland grasses located there, so we had scooped them up and then walked them down towards the stream and then laid them down so they could regrow in the stream. And to answer your question, I don't know if it was a question, but regards to things being in place and departments reviewing it. So as part of our proposal, each department within the city has reviewed the plan and has given their okay. That would be the fire services reviews it and they've approved it. Public Works does the same thing with Scott Adams. Richard McCune with the water and sewer reviews it as well. Richard did have some concerns and asked, and then he had CBCL do a report, and it stated that this development would not put this area over capacity. Once the whole area around Country View and all the neighboring parcels would be developed, then the city might face capacity issues. But with this one, it does not affect the water and sewer capability of providing services to this development or to the neighboring properties whatsoever.
Okay, next question, Dan. You have 10 acres set aside for parkland, but in that 10 acres that you have set aside, 49.2 feet on each side of that stream is untouchable space. You can't put a park into it under the Environmental Protection Act. So therefore, that does not leave you 10 acres of land for parkland. So there's not going to be much parkland left here for people to enjoy.
So the total number would be slightly over that. Once you remove the buffer zone, then you're left with the 10 acres. And in this map, you can see the hashed area. That's where the Central Park would go. And then the
Where?
Sure.
Yeah, just use
There's
the
a park,
highlighter.
there's another picture with showing the parkland.
Can you find that? That, right. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you can see
Just
where there's no. I don't-
Choose your highlighter. Yeah, that's it.
So in this area, there would have been lots all the way through here, but this is the area that Parks chose. There was also an area down here that they had the option to choose, but Nancy and Frank felt that this would best work for the city, because then it would allow for trails to be built on either side. That's why the old driveway is still in place, because they want to be able to use that to cross the stream and then to have a walking trail down each side.
But
And then-
nobody can get from the 600 units to that park on the upper side without going out onto the highway because there's
No,
no sidewalks in place.
No, there'll be, the old driveway is going to remain in place, and then the trail that the Parks Department is going to build, it will utilize that existing driveway so people can cross the stream and walk down each side of the trail on trails that the Parks Department will build. And then their plan is to, as this area is developed, to continue those trails down through that area.
Okay. I have a few questions, Your Worship. One sec.
Fire away.
So, Councillor McKinnon, you know that it goes to planning board and there will be another opportunity for the developer to
But
present, so.
Some of these are questions that the residents asked me to ask
Yeah.
tonight, so. So for the sidewalk, Mr. Ayton indicated that the sidewalk is municipal issues. A certain portion of Hidden Valley, you guys had to donate or give to transportation, is that correct? And along the side of the highway of Route 2?
Yeah, so through the meetings, they're required, I think it was 10 additional feet
Okay.
to allow for that to be built. And it'd be the same as we have all along the Turlock Highway already, where the actual transportation has been built. So
Yeah.
I think the same as the Niche Royalty would have been through the similar fund when you did that road, and that would be the same here.
I was told today that extra feet that was given is going to be for the widening of the road down in the future. It's not going to be for a sidewalk or an active transportation pathway.
Is that correct, Mr. Aiken?
I think we indicated that it would be for road widening, and if there's room, that active transportation or sidewalk could be placed in there too.
Yeah, if there's, yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
Well, and that was our understanding in the meeting, that, you know, when they do this section of road, that it would look similar to what they've done in East Royalty with a pathway down the side. So that's why we agreed to it, because we felt that it was something that the residents of this development in the area needed.
And I'm just going to touch on one more question. I'll leave the rest for the next meeting. One of the speakers mentioned about the trees disappearing. The intent of the tree staying, that was the intent of Phase 1 and Phase 2, but the trees disappeared long before those lots were bought by somebody else all along our backyards.
That's incorrect. The only spot where it is, though.
Guys,
Just let me answer the question.
He
You
has
can
to-
tell me
he has
I'm
to
wrong
answer.
if you want.
Yeah.
That's fine. The only spots where the trees were removed prior to any lots being sold were at the 4 entrances into the subdivision. So to put the road through the tree line, yes, we did remove some trees to accommodate the right-of-way that the city now owns. But there was no lots that trees were removed on before those lots were sold to private owners.
So you're saying the lot owners, the buyers or the owners of those lots took the trees down? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so like right here, for instance, like the tree line went through that road, but to put the road in, that section of trees had to be removed, same as the other 3 areas.
Right.
And then once people bought the lots, some of them chose to keep the trees, and then some of them chose to remove them. We have no control over what someone does with their own private property.
Can I ask, are they individually owned? Because
Yes,
3,
they
4,
are.
5 lots at a time were in there with the Hymac hauling trees down, and the residents behind there are quite upset with this. So they're concerned about the trees along the stream, this other tree, the natural tree line, being taken down again.
Yeah, they all are individually owned. Some people bought a group of lots and built homes for rentals or to sell them. And then if you do go in down to this section, I believe there's 7 or 8 houses built in here, and they kept every one of the trees along that area, along the stream.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay. Dan, thank you. Could I just ask a question to Alan? Alan, in the report, it says the Provincial Department of Transportation is able to provide traffic modeling for this area. So Dan mentioned that they did do a traffic study. Did you compare that to your traffic modeling?
We have done some traffic analysis of that area in terms of what the effects of the 600 units would be in conjunction with the traffic that's currently coming out of Penny Lane and Country View. And we feel that it can be easily accommodated through the installation of signals and/or a roundabout. But the initial controlled intersection will be a signalized intersection. At some point in time, most likely that signalized intersection will convert to a multi-lane roundabout, similar to what you see in East Royalty.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Do you want to sum up, Councillor McKinnon?
Just one more question
Yeah.
for Dan. How many parking units are available per unit, including handicap parking?
Again, that would be determined throughout the design and application process of each individual lot. So right now, this is just an application to rezone this parcel land, so then that process can start where each building would be designed, and then they would have to meet the requirements set forth by the city.
Okay.
In that traffic study, that was done for phase 1 and phase 2, based on that traffic flow into Highfield. We didn't have one done for Route 2. As Alan said, the province already had their own, so we didn't go that route.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
The traffic analysis, Alan, sorry.
Yeah.
The traffic analysis study you said, is that just the computer generated saying how many vehicles are on the road, or?
Well, it's a combination of things. We have traffic counts that we do throughout the island. We count for about 4 months of the year. We have people out counting various intersections. These intersections in particular were picked up, I can't swear to it, it was either earlier this year or the previous year, so we know the amount of traffic that's currently using Country View and Penny Lane, and we use that as well as projections on the amount of traffic that would be generated by a 600-unit apartment complex to be able to determine if and when a controlled intersection is required. And the amount of traffic typically from an apartment unit is less per unit than a single-family dwelling.
Okay.
Yeah, explain that
Okay.
to me today. Thank you.
Welcome.
Councillor Twill, we had 3 other applications left. Is this
Well, yeah,
to the
so-
engineer,
No, it's to.
Mr. Whalen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dan, I think you talked earlier about transit. Transit,
A bus stop inside,
Pardon?
like a bus stop within the development unit?
yes, and currently, as you know, the city's undertaking a review of our transit routes and hours of operations. And just wondering if you had a chance to, or anyone with your group, had an opportunity to have a discussion with the transit consultants. So to see how the development would line up with the new transit routes and to accommodate not only your development, but in that whole general area, because we're going through that exercise now. I was just wondering if you had that opportunity to have any collaboration or any discussions with the transit consultants, which, as you know, is very important.
Mr. Whalen?
So we didn't have any direct, I didn't know there was a transit consultant, but we did have discussion with T3 Transit themselves, And they indicated there's currently, like I said before, there's currently a bus stop directly across from Country View. And by moving it into this development, they'd be able to utilize that right in, right out entrance, stop at the bus stop in a safer manner than stopping on Route 2, and then use the controlled intersection to get the bus back out onto the road in a timely manner.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beck? Yeah. Question, Mr. Webb?
This is for Dan. It's kind of a follow-up on when I think it was Sterling was talking earlier. And I don't know whether you're at this point yet or not, but he did ask a question about units for seniors or affordable units, and I don't know if I heard an answer for that, or are you at that point, or do you have an answer for that question at this point? Or would that be part of the review design part later on?
So it would be part of the review process. A lot of the funding around apartment buildings now require a certain number of units to be affordable. So that would also be taken into account by the developer, whoever it is, for each of individual lots. What was the other question?
That.
What do you said something else, affordable and seniors.
Seniors.
Seniors housing.
So yeah, that would also be another one that we would look at, maybe having a full senior apartment complex to help satisfy those needs.
Some of these you're developing yourself, aren't you? Did I hear you say that earlier?
Yeah, so that would be the intent, would be to sell some of the lots and then to also develop some of them ourselves.
Okay, so the ones you would develop, what would be your intention with that for seniors, affordable, fully market? What would you have in mind?
So for some of them, we would aim to have a certain percentage of them in the affordable range. And then we're also looking at possibly doing one that would tailor towards seniors housing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, comments, we'll move on to the next application. Montgomery Heights, plan of subdivision lot 160 Fairdale Drive, PID number 192153. Okay. So if there's anyone out in the foyer that wants to come into the gallery, they can just come in now. Again, it's Montgomery Heights, plan of subdivision lot 160 Fairdale Drive, PIN number 192153. Laurel Palmer Thompson is the planner for the city, and it's being presented by Mr. Derek French. Derek, do you have anyone with you to present? Okay, so Laurel, do you want to start off? Yeah, we'll just have to wait, Laurel. We don't have quorum. Yeah, just, you know what, Laurel, just take a moment. We're just going to take a break, quick break. Oh, thank you very much. My God.
Show you here. Yeah, put it on.
So you can just follow that presentation.
Sure.
We'll give you a clicker.
Yeah.
And then you can just refer onto your notes. from
So
there.
you'll just show the main slides and not all the
Yeah.
notation.
Did you send him the presentation with notes?
I gave him the full file.
Okay. So
he-
it already have the notes?
Yeah. So just go to slideshow.
Yeah.
And then just change your screen so only the main slide goes to the screen instead of the screen with the notes.
Okay. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah.
So could you show me? I'll just do that there.
So we go from the beginning.
Yeah, that's what he will show.
That's what he will show. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all. That's it. Just the normal thing you do.
Okay.
Slideshow first.
I have to email. Can you go into your email from your office settings? Just tell me. Brain search. Call myself.
He goes around.
Where is it? Can you see it? Oh, okay, he's here. Oh, he's here. Okay. He's here, apparently. Oh, yeah. Okay.
He was just sitting outside.
Oh, thank you. The keep was up. What? I like it. I like it. Oh, yeah. Jason, we can start.
Whenever it just no video. There's been audio.
Okay. So I have already introduced the application, and Laurel Palmer Thompson, on behalf of the Department of Planning, Development, and Heritage, will make the presentation. Then Derek French, the proponent, will speak to it. Laurel.
Yes, Your Worship, members of council, ladies and gentlemen of the public. Hopefully this presentation will go a little smoother than the last one. No technical difficulties. Just going to flip to the Montgomery Heights. So, this is an application for Montgomery Heights subdivision. It's a request to rezone Lot 60 on Fairdale Drive, portion of PID number 192153. And the request is to amend Appendix A, the future land use map of the City of Charlottetown official plan from medium-density residential to high-density residential, and to amend Appendix G, zoning map of the Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw from MUR, medium-density mixed-use residential zone, to R4B, apartment residential zone. The details of the property. The property is approximately 8.2 acres and is located off Fairdale Drive. The property is bound to the north by R2S, low-density residential single-zone properties, to the east by R2S, low-density residential single-zone properties as well, to the south by property zoned open space and Splendid Drive, and to the west by MUR, medium-density mixed-use residential zone properties in Kindred Avenue. So specifically, the request is to rezone approximately 8.2 acres of land located off Fairdale Drive to the to R4B apartment residential zone, and subdivide the property into 6 lots to accommodate high-density residential development for new apartment buildings. The proposed density for the overall site is approximately 192 units, 32 units per building, and that was attached in the concept plan that went around in the package to you earlier. I'll flip to that slide in a minute. But however, you should consider that the size of the property may permit up to 213 units, provided that the minimum parking requirements under the zone can be met in the future. So legislative requirements in accordance with Section 3.10.4, amendments to the bylaw and rezoning of the zoning and development bylaw. On July 10th, 2023, City Council approved the request to proceed to public consultation. On January 9th, 2024, written notification was sent to 45 property owners located within 100 meters of the subject property. The letter advised them of the public meeting and requested their comments, and to date, 2 written responses were received. And this is just a quick look at the concept plan, and Derek French is the developer, and he will be here to speak, and he'll explain this in a little more detail. Jason, you can now flip to Mr. French's proposal.
So, Mr. French, just make sure that you speak loud enough, because there could be people out in the foyer, and it's also live stream.
Yes.
Thank you.
Worship.
Chief? We'll just make sure it's working during the presentation.
Montgomery Heights, not Laurel's, but this much. Oh, you're that good?
Abracadabra, okay.
Good evening, Your Worship, Mayor Brown, and councillors. As you're aware, my name's Derek French, and I'm one of the 5 partners in Montgomery Heights. As indicated in the city's newsletter, we have requested to rezone the existing senior housing lot 160 to apartments. I wish to compare the existing zoning and proposed zoning. The subject lot is presently zoned MUR, mixed-use residential, as outlined in black on the city zoning map. Consists of 8.2 acres. Present MUR zoning allows for many housing options: single, detached dwellings, semi-detached, duplexes, townhouses, stacked townhouses, block townhouses, nursing homes, and community care facilities. The vision over 10 years ago was to designate this lot as a seniors housing, nursing, and community care. The proposed R4B zone permits all the current permitted uses of the MUR zone and some additional permitted uses. Comparing the 2 zones, sorry, I'm missing my slides. So this is comparing the 2 zones. Single-family dwellings are not permitted in the 4B zone. Community care and nursing homes are permitted in both. Apartments are only permitted in the R4B zone. It is not a question of rezoning from community care to apartments, but rather requesting a rezoning to allow additional uses, apartments. Existing zoning allows for 263 rooms for community care and assisted living senior housing. Number of rooms is based on lot size. Interior lot requires 3,983 square feet for the first 3 rooms and 1,076 square feet for each additional room. Besides, the corner lots require 4,252 square feet for the first 3 rooms and 1,076 square feet for each additional room. This example shows 6 5-story buildings on 4 separate lots, ranging from 40 to 46 rooms per building, allowing for required amount of parking, setback, etc. The areas highlighted in green show the grassed areas around the buildings and parking lot, consisting of approximately 50% of the lot area. Lot 160-4 example shows one 44-room community care and assisted living, 5-story building, and one 44-room community care and senior housing, 5-story building, complete with required parking and an enclosed garbage buildings. Same as our hospitals, community care facilities are having difficulties with staff shortages, lack of healthcare workers and service providers, lack of doctors, lack of RNs, LPNs, RCWs, physio and occupational therapists, rehab support staff. Besides custodial workers, housekeeping staff, laundry staff, kitchen staff. Maybe years before these staff shortages change. Our realtor has reached out to many community care facilities over the last decade, and no one is showing any interest in pursuing a new development on this site. Reviewing the traffic for community care based on the current zoning, 263 rooms of 1 to 4 residents per room are permitted. Using an average of 2 residents per room equates to 526 residents, complete with regular EMS visits. Michael McDonald, Senior Transportation Engineer of Harborside Transportation Consultants, developed the ITE trip generation estimates for weekday AM peak hour and PM peak hour trips. The existing zoning, community care weekday total of 1,490 trips. Proposed rezoning to R4B, 6 3-story buildings on 6 separate lots. Number of units is based on the size of the lot. Interior lots require 1,238 square feet per unit. Corner lots require 1,507 square feet per unit, complete with required parking, garbage building enclosures. Grass areas still comprise of 50% of the lot area. Sample lot 160-6, 132-unit, 3-story building on a 1-acre lot, complete with required parking, setbacks, enclosed garbage buildings. Sample apartment buildings roughly 70 feet wide by 140 feet long, 3 stories with approximate height of 40 feet. We will have restrictive covenants requiring the exterior of the buildings to be designed with street view appeal, complete with landscaping. Single-family dwelling lots are approximately 0.2 of an acre, equates to 5 units per acre. Apartments allow 32 units per acre. It's 5 single-family dwelling units versus 32 apartment units per acre. 84% higher density. Higher density preserves more farmland and allows sustainable development in the city. It reduces the amount of infrastructure, roads, water lines, sewer lines, sidewalks, street lighting, etc. City maintenance costs are reduced, thus less property taxes are needed for repairs. Typical 32-unit lot has 230 feet of road frontage. 230 feet of road frontage would allow 3.5 single-family dwelling lots. 9 times more infrastructure required to house the same number of people. More people can enjoy the beautiful views at the top of the hill, and more residents can utilize the large 7.8-acre adjacent parkland. The subject property is also close to LM Montgomery School, T3 Transit, QEH, and other amenities, as well as apartments will generate 50% more property tax. Apartment traffic is based on 213 units. Again, as per Michael McDonald, the ITE trip generation estimates for weekday AM peak hour and PM peak hour for the proposed zoning apartments weekday total of 1,436 trips. That's 54 fewer trips per day than the present zoning. Comparing the present zoning design to the proposed zoning design, the two configurations are very similar, street and lot layouts. Two accesses, one on the north and one on the east, connecting to Fairdale Drive. Same number of buildings, 6, and parking and streets are very similar. Garbage buildings identical. Typically 50% of the lot areas are grassed. The key differences is the uses. Apartment units versus community care rooms. 213 units versus 263 rooms, 19% fewer. 1,436 trips versus 1,490 vehicle trips per day, 4% fewer. Proposing 3-story buildings versus 5-story buildings, 40% lower in height. Housing shortage options. Some people can't afford these housing options. Based on samples in Montgomery Heights, we're paying a single-family dwelling costs $475,000, which equates to a $3,400 a month mortgage payment. One side of a semi-detached is going for $425,000. It equates to $3,000 a month for a mortgage payment. A unit in a townhouse is running for around $400,000 and equates to $2,800 for a monthly mortgage payment. Apartment units are a good option for many, but the city currently experiences a housing shortage and high costs for some housing. An apartment unit, either rented or owned as a condo, is an economical way to provide housing. All demographics of people can utilize these options. Young families, young professionals, and seniors. The buildings will be equipped with elevators, so accessibility will not be an issue. A unit will typically rent for $1,750 a month, or $300,000 condo mortgage at $2,100 a month. Comparing a monthly $1,750 rent to a single-family dwelling mortgage of $3,400 is a $20,000 a year difference. I would like to illustrate the amount of land needed to house 213 units. This map shows portion of Montgomery Heights, McCrae Drive to East Royalty Road. The plan on the left shows the entire 1-acre property outlined in red. If we were to design 213 single-family lots using 0.2 acre per lot, plus 25% area for roads and 10% area for open space, the area shown highlighted in pink is needed. We would be using 52 acres of land rather than 8.2 acres. (84% of the land required to house the same number of people. Presently, there are 235 units located within 52 acres, plus the subject lot. If we add the 213 new apartment units, we will have a total of 438 units within the 52 acres. 438 units versus 213 single-family units, over double the number of housing units. In summary, changing the use from community care rooms to apartment units, allowing for reasonable housing options, 3-story buildings versus 5-story buildings, 9 times less infrastructure, 50% grassed areas, $1,750 a month rental versus a $3,400 a month single-family dwelling mortgage, 213 units versus 263 rooms, 19% fewer, and 4% less vehicle traffic. Montgomery Heights is in the land development business, not in the construction and operation of community care facilities. This lot has been marketed over the past 10 years and there has been no interest. It seems unnecessary with the current shortage of housing needs on PEI to be holding pieces of property in a desirable city location for future development that could be part of the current solution. In closing, I would like to express my appreciation for the worships and councilors' efforts and dedication to the betterment of the city of Charlottetown and its residents. I hope you will consider our rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. So, do you just wish to take your laptop off the podium? And anyone wishes to ask a question, just come to the podium, and if you wish to handle the mic yourself so you can speak clearly and loudly so that our online viewers can see and hear you. Just thank you.
Hi there, Aaron Barnett, McWilliams Road. I'm just curious. There was a lot of things addressed with your presentation, and that's great. I'm curious if Public Schools branch has been consulted with the impact that's going to have on LM Montgomery. They recently had an expansion and added a big piece to the school, but from what I understand, it's filled up, it's at capacity again. So if we're changing this from senior housing to apartment complexes, essentially, that's going to add families, that's going to add children to the area. So I'm just wondering if that has been taken into consideration at all. Thank you.
Mr. French?
I did talk to the principal and Councillor McCabe this summer. We were basically working on a walkway to the school there, and the principal told me that the school is definitely at capacity, but she thought that the next step would be another school, not another expansion of LM Montgomery. That's what I was told, but.
Like a new school on the same property, or new school somewhere else?
I don't know the details. Just said that LM Montgomery was at its capacity, and they weren't considering expanding anymore. My understanding is a whole new school would be needed.
Okay.
Hi, do I state my name first?
Yes, please.
I'm Fallon Richard, and I live on McWilliams Road. In 2019, LM Montgomery School underwent renovations to expand the school. During this time, only 10 classrooms were added. LM Montgomery's current maximum capacity is 510 students. This September, 535 students were enrolled. We already are over capacity by 25 students, and that does not include any late enrollments. There are 2 apartment buildings in construction currently, which will provide an additional 48 units. There are also streets filled with single-family townhouses and duplex lots still to be built upon. How can our school system handle what is even in the original plan? Bringing in an additional 92 units at minimum that will fill with young families is not helping our already overpopulated school. LM Montgomery needs senior housing, not high-density apartments. In closing, I would like to say that we have taken many things into consideration when building our home and raising our young family here, and it would be very unfortunate to see a developer take seniors housing, which is very much needed in our province, away and fill it with high-density units to make a quick profit.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. Mic's open. Is there anyone in the foyer? If there is, just please come in and you can step up to the mic and ask your question or make comment. While we're waiting, Mr. French, you said 9 times less the infrastructure. Can you explain 9 times less? Like, is that on water, wastewater?
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship. Less roads to build, less sidewalks, less sewer and water, and the infrastructure is based on the length of the road normally, and in order to accommodate, we'll say, the apartment building, there's 32 units versus if you had the same number of houses, you'd have basically 7 single-family dwellings.
Okay, thank you.
Your Worship, can I just say about...
She's coming up.
Sorry.
Come right up again, please.
I'm curious too, where is the transit system that you're talking about? Because I don't see one.
I just went on the website and T3 comes in my understanding, into Gilbert and goes up Kindred and across is Splendid out to East Royalty Road and then out. Well, that's what they have on their website.
And then also, no crosswalk, no, we don't have any sidewalks.
Yeah.
We have no streetlights, no traffic light. Like, I just don't understand how taking seniors' housing away and putting in high-density family units is gonna help any of this. Like, we're already overpopulated as is.
Yeah. And Laurel, again, those roads are our roads. They've all been turned over to the city, so it's up to the city to provide the lighting.
Yes, Your Worship. The developers work with Maritime Electric or to put in the lighting, or they install underground infrastructure and street light, like more decorative street poles. It just depends on what they choose to do. But one point of clarification on the schools. When we did the East Royalty Plan, we did work with the school board, and we were aware at that time that LM Montgomery School would reach capacity at a certain point with when development started to fill up within East Royalty. So within the East Royalty Plan, we worked with the school board, and there was areas designated for future land for a new school. So, and that is more towards the Hillsborough area. So that area is also included within the village of East Royalty.
Okay, Councillor McCabe.
And I received, like Councillor McKinnon, quite a bit of feedback from residents. But for clarification, we don't have a very good transit system at our way. We have a little bus that goes around the outskirts of East Royalty in the morning to pick up people. But that runs once in the morning and once in the evening. So our transit is not anywhere close to being able to meet the needs of the development that's happened in our area for sure. And when we first heard this application, and my concern from knowing from talking to many residents is this development was projected to take approximately 20 years to reach where it's been developed in 5. So residents are correct. We don't have streetlights, and it's not, we're waiting. COVID happened, lots of things happened, but it doesn't mean we can still continually put things in place and develop more and still not have the necessary infrastructure that we have in place. The school is going to be an issue, and that's a provincial thing, and until you get that confirmed, I mean, how do we keep, she just indicated there's 2 apartments that are, I'll save all my rant for later, but there are concerns that we have to hear from around, as we continue to look at projecting development, and seniors housing is kind of important.
Okay, thank you. Just come to the mic, sir, and just give your name and area.
Just to raise a point, Your Honor. I thought at the start of this meeting the councillors were not supposed to show any bias. And I think you're biased there. You're talking we and all that stuff. It's not, perhaps not appropriate for this meeting.
Sorry, I'm just speaking on behalf of what the residents indicated to me too. I was speaking for them.
You're not following the guidelines that
Fair.
His Worship put out.
Okay. If there's a conflict of interest, I think that we can get that verified or checked out. I think same with Councillor McKinnon. He asked some questions regarding what was going on in his area. Okay. Again, I know Ms. Richard wants to make a couple more questions, but if you have some questions, if you can just put it all in one, because we're trying to keep the mic open. Did you want to ask? You're good?
Could I just ask Fallon one clarification?
You go right ahead.
Yeah. Fallon, did you say 248 units under development right now, or what? 224s? Which would be 48. Thank you. Okay.
And then there's a third that didn't start yet, so it'd be 324s technically.
Yeah.
So two are under development.
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to, it has to go on the public record, and
Sorry.
I think Councillor Beck.
So there's 2.
It's just best to come through the chair, then we can notify her. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Can you just,
Yeah, so there's 224 units that are up. They haven't been, they're working on being enclosed now, and then there's 1 more that will be started soon, so that'll be 324s total that haven't, there's no kids in it, no families in it yet, so who's to say we're not at another 100 students coming next fall?
thank you. Right up, sir.
It's Paul Johnston on McWilliams Road. We've been residents for going on 19 years. When we first moved out, there was 3 homes on McWilliams. Ours would have been the 4th. Across from Montgomery Heights, with no prejudice, was probably the nicest farmland anybody would see in Queens County, bar none. Since 4 years, I guess, the development has begun with lots of roads, lots of construction, lots of dust, lots of trucks, and so on. But my focus, I think, right now is McWilliams Road is about 1 kilometer long. It hasn't changed in 20 years. It's still a 2-lane country road, if you will, as it was when we first moved there. Since the development, Mr. French spoke of how many doors are in there now, approximately 200 perhaps total, mostly rentals, I suspect. We're adding roughly 200 minimum more doors with this project at 2.5 cars per, which is another 500 cars. My issue is, can McWilliams Road handle all that traffic? One reason is the smaller feeder roads that we've spoke of tonight. Someone mentioned Splendid, Kindred, Cordial, Shirley, so on. They're very small roads, but they all feed into one road, that being McWilliams. So there's going to be a lot of extra traffic. As mentioned earlier, Lucy Maud is an elementary school, overcapacity. It's built on a blind hill. I remember, sidebar, 19 years ago, when I applied for a permit, the city wanted me to do a traffic study because of the blind hill, which was 1/4 mile from where I live. I happen to live on the flattest part of McWilliams Road, but for me to get a permit for one house, I had to go through hoops and barrels, and which we did, and the city okayed it. But I see another 500 minimum, plus whatever's going to happen in the next 1.5 or 2 years. It's filling up fast now. I just am not sure how McWilliams Road is going to handle that. It does feed into one of the busiest entrances to the city, which is St. Peter's Road. We have a roundabout. Most mornings, if you go down there Monday to Friday, the roundabout is dog eat dog. Who's going to let you in? That doesn't end there. It goes right up to the bypass at the KFC intersection. So that is one side. I'm really concerned on traffic. The second is, I wasn't aware, and I've been following this for some time, as Councillor McCabe can attest to. Nowhere did I see the community care / nursing / whatever it could end up being under the current zoning. At no point did I ever see 5-story buildings ever going up. I'm wondering, is that a scare tactic? So if we don't accept the proposed 200 units, that residents are going to have to be faced with 5-story brick and mortar institutional. I did not see that. I meant to ask Councillor McCabe where that came from. Was it ever put out to residents on the scale of the original plan? It's almost, Your Honor, Mayor, saying that if you don't accept this, we're going to go back with something even worse, and then you're stuck with it. That's about it for right now. It is a heated discussion. We all are aware of housing needs. We just got to know where they fit best in our city. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, thank you very much. So Laurel, if I look through the zoning development bylaw, there's section 22 for the East Royalty mixed-use village center zone. Then if I look in the official plan, where's the East Royalty plan? I thought there was one that was put together and laid out some of the concerns Mr. Johnson was talking about.
Yes, Your Worship. So the East Royalty Master Plan is embedded in the official plan, and the regulations for that, the implementing regulations, are within the zoning and development bylaw. The residents' questions about the five-story buildings and the density, that's based on the regulations in the bylaw. So the bylaw allows so many bed or rooms per lot area. So based on the size of the lots, that's how the developer is calculating the amount of rooms that are permitted. So in order to accommodate so many rooms, you would be able to build a building of a specific height to be able to accommodate the density, as long as it met the height provisions in the bylaw.
Mr. French?
Yes, that's exactly right, Your Worship. We basically calculated the number of rooms for the building, and then there's a certain percentage that needs to be community, kitchen, basic custodial services, basically communal areas for the residents to socialize. There's areas for basically medication and doctors. So we took that all into account, and that's why we needed such a higher building to accommodate that many residents in the building.
Mr. French just answered my question. Okay. Folks, I haven't been in a lot of places, but show me a proper seniors / community care / nursing home that's a 5-story building, let alone ground level, 2 level. Yeah. 5 just seems a little high for our senior population, despite elevators, despite call it what you want.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, to Laurel's point earlier, she said there was only 2 responses for this meeting tonight.
Yes, that's what we have, we've received. That was up until the date that we put the presentation together. So I don't know if anything has come in since then. Have you sent something in?
Personally, we did ourselves, and we know of several others, so that's more than 2.
Okay.
So I don't know the exact dates they come in, and it's probably not important tonight, but
Yeah.
I think there's enough to say there's more than 2.
Yeah.
Based on our neighborhood and people that are within our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
It's just, Mr. Johnson, the rules of engagement is that, I know the deputy mayor read out the ground rules. It's one time for 5 minutes, and I just try to be a little flexible because of the other information.
Thank you,
But
Mayor.
I can tell you that growing up, the Sacred Heart home was 5 stories, but that was many, many years ago. Oh, Deputy?
Yep. Oh, thanks. I had been remiss in mentioning this at the beginning of the evening. For those folks that Paul mentioned about letters that have come in since then, you do still have until Wednesday noon for anyone else that wants to submit letters. So I know that's only tomorrow, but if anyone else does want to submit additional letters. And then when this goes back to planning board, all the letters that might not have been in the package for tonight will all be in the package for the next planning board meeting. So anyone that's letters are not there, rest assured they will be included at the next planning board meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Twill?
Mr. French, thank you for your presentation. One of the issues that come up during your presentation and response from the residents, and something similar with the previous development, I asked about the transit, new routes, more hours, how many days to be able to accommodate the residents that live in this community. Have you had an opportunity, or are you aware, and I'm trying to be helpful, are you aware of City of Charlottetown engaging with transit consultants? I think we're going through our second phase now. Ned went out today to the community for further engagement. Have you had an opportunity to collaborate with transit consultants to see what the demand is, what the requirement is for people living in this community, so they have access to transportation, predictable and consistent transportation.
Councillor Twill, I did review the T3, as I mentioned, on their website, but we haven't consulted with any of the authorities about it. I wasn't aware that there is lack of transportation in the community, but on behalf of the residents, as the developer, I could consult with T3 if that would help.
Yeah, okay. So if there are any questions, comments, please step up and could I just open it to the public? Okay, Councillor Twill.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson, you talked about McWilliams Road. You were the fourth house on this particular road. You mentioned the stringent process that you had to go through in order to get a permit. If you look at McWilliams Road today, and I know you're not an engineer, but you refer to it as a country road, what are some of the prerequisites that you would recommend City Council from a layman's perspective as to what that road should look like today with all of the development that's taken place? I've driven that road many times as well, and you know, there's a tremendous amount of development. So what are some of the amenities and some of the infrastructure requirements that you would envision for that road?
Councillor Twill, that's a question for our planners.
No, I know, but Paul referenced. No, hold it, Your
And
Worship.
I just want to make sure.
Paul referenced.
Yeah.
So I want to hear.
Yeah. Well,
I want to hear some of his recommendations.
I don't think that's an appropriate question because.
I don't think it is. I totally disagree with you.
I don't think it is because you can ask our planners, could we get an opinion on that? Don't want to put Mr. Johnson in position. No, excuse me. Yes, so do I. That's all.
Yes, Your Worship. So Councillor Twill is asking about infrastructure in McWilliams Road. What do you envision? Well, I mean, the city is responsible for sidewalks. I believe there was a portion of that road that a paved trail was put in. I would have to consult with the Public Works manager on you know, when they plan to put sidewalks in, or if there is a mandate from council to put sidewalks in. Street lighting, that would be another issue if there are portions of the road that don't have street lighting or not serviced by street lighting. Again, those are things that we would consult with Public Works on. As you're aware, McWilliams Road is an older street. It's not a new subdivision, so that wouldn't have been something that would have been managed by our department.
And Mr. Johnson, you could forward those comments in a letter to our department in regards to that. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from council? Well, thank you. And Deputy Mayor, tomorrow is the last day, but there are an opportunity to put in late if they do so, or is that?
I think this is outlined in either our Planning Act, so Laurel might be able to answer that, but I think that in terms of the whole process, I think that is the rule, is it not? 12 o'clock tomorrow at noon? 12 o'clock.
Yes, Your Worship. We did note in the letters that went out to residents that they have until 12 noon tomorrow to respond. And if there were any letters that did come in that we weren't aware of or that weren't included with the package, we will check to confirm what was sent in, so they will go to Planning Board. So just to assure the residents of that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the next one. And that's 421 St. Peter's Road, PID number 464586. Mr. Gundrum is going to make the presentation on behalf of staff, and Jeff Doucette is here. Let him, okay? Okay, Mr. Gundrum.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The following application concerns property at 421 St. Peters Road, PID number 464586. This is a request for a site-specific exemption in the R2 zone to allow for the expansion of an existing drive-through, which is accessory to an existing coffee shop. This is to allow for expansion of a drive-through from an existing single lane to a double lane. Just flipping on the presentation here, this is a schematic of what the proposed double lane drive-through would look like. Again, the intention here is to allow for 2 order lanes that would total 14 vehicle queuing spaces, and utilizing existing road access points along St. Peters Road or Route 2. The existing conditions and land use context, the existing zoning for the property is R2, low-density residential. The site is adjacent to a parcel containing an existing gas station, having an accessory convenience store, restaurant, liquor store, and coffee shop with accessory single-lane drive-through. The subject property is surrounded by low-density residential uses, being predominantly within the R1L and R2 zones that are zoned for single-detached and semi-detached dwelling units. The subject property has frontage onto a main arterial roadway, being St. Peters Road or Provincial Route 2. With respect to our zoning bylaw, section 46.8 contains provisions for queuing spaces for drive-throughs. The regulations are presented on this slide for council's and the public's information. Also, queuing spaces are to have a minimum dimension of 6.5 meters in length by 3 meters in width. And queuing lanes shall provide sufficient space for turning and maneuvering and shall not occupy any portion of a designated fire lane. In support of the application, the proponents have provided a traffic impact study. The traffic study found, it looked at 4 locations as comparable locations to the subject property. It examined peak drive-through and queuing times during the morning period, being 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. This looked at 4 separate Tim Hortons locations, 2 of which are in Charlottetown, 1 in the village of Montague, and 1 in the city of Dartmouth. Only one of these 4 sites did utilize a two-lane order system. The longest queue was observed as being 6 vehicles in length during the peak morning periods. The traffic study found and concluded that the proposed 14 vehicle long queuing area for 421 St. Peters Road would provide sufficient space to accommodate the expected customer demand during peak periods. As far as legislative requirements, our section 3.10.4 of the zoning and development bylaw does require for public circulation. On January 2nd, City Council approved a request to proceed to public consultation for this application. Subsequently, on January 9th, 2024, written notification was sent to all property owners located within 100 meters, being 328 feet of the boundaries of the subject property. A total of 35 letters were sent to residents advising them of the public meeting this evening to solicit their response and comments. And to date, there was 1 written response received from a local resident who expressed concern for the application. In terms of comments and feedback from public agencies and city departments, City Public Works responded as being in support of the proposal with no further concerns. City Fire Department had some concern for traffic accessing the site from St. Peters Road and are in favor of the design concept number 2 as put forward by the applicants. And lastly, Provincial Department of Transportation and Infrastructure has stated that the main drive-through entrance from St. Peter's Road must be a single-lane, right-in only access. DTI also stated in their comments and feedback that they are accepting of 3 access points onto the site from St. Peter's Road, as is reflected in the current design for the proposal. And just to move on from here, the next steps after tonight, along our current timeline, would to be to bring a recommendation forward to Planning Board at their next meeting on February 6th, following which time we would provide recommendation to Council at their subsequent meeting on February 12th. So that is a summary of the application and the proposal for 421 St. Peter's Road. And I'd be happy to answer your questions that members of Council or the public may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the public? Just state your name, please.
Hi, my name is Pat Craswell, and I live at 425 St. Peter's Road. I'm the one person that he has the letter from. We've lived there for 40 years, and where this drive-through is going, we're connected. Our 2 yards are connected from the sidewalk right straight to the backyard. So between what used to be Bert's house and our house isn't a lot of space. So this drive-through is going to go right up by the side of my house, right through by my backyard. Like, everybody should kind of be entitled to sit out their deck and have a coffee without a bunch of cars going through your backyard and turning. It's just, to me, doesn't make sense. But anyway, it's, I realize that Mills is a business. We're a homeowner. It's a lot of traffic. Before they changed that highway out there, we used to sit at the end of our driveway and count the cars trying to get to work in the morning to get out of our driveway. So is this going to be like every other coffee shop on PEI where they're going to line up on St. Peter's Highway? And how do you contain that?
Mm-hmm.
That's my beat for the evening. Thanks.
Thank you. So, David, could we just allow, I think it's Jeff Doucette, and who's your partner, Jeff? Mike McDonald. From CBCL? Different. Harborside. Okay. Sorry about that, Mike.
So my name is Jeff Doucette. I'm the president of Mel's Convenience Stores, and we do understand your concern, obviously, and we want to be respectful of that. In the past, in the last exit onto Angus, what we did with the homeowner, we erected a berm and a privacy fence, and we would look at doing something similar for you folks. Obviously, with lighting and stuff too, we'd want to be respectful, not to show. Yeah, no, we understand that, but you know, we can put higher fences. I think on the Angus exit, we have a berm and a 6-foot fence, which kind of covers about 10 feet. So we'd be open to doing something like that to kind of mitigate any intrusion onto your property. And I think in relation to the drive-through queuing, part of Michael's report and going to these other Tim Hortons is to understand the queuing capacity of this drive-through as it's laid out. And obviously a big concern of the province and the city was making sure that there'd be no queuing onto the highway. And that's why Michael went to all these other Tim Hortons and kind of built a model for our queuing to ensure that it was more than sufficient to handle on the existing property.
Mr. McDonald, you don't want to say anything? On the traffic side or queuing side?
Sure. Recently as well, we've done some observations of the existing site, just to look at operations at the adjacent roundabout and existing queuing on the site. So didn't see anything unexpected or unusual or anything that caused congestion on St. Peter's Road. The roundabout's operating at really high capacity levels, very little delay happening there. Further to our study of other sites in PEI and in Nova Scotia, we were seeing, sort of queuing requirements that we see here as being provided on site. So we think this will be an adequate storage with the dual lane that will operate efficiently and prevent any queuing onto St. Peter's Road or causing congestion on the adjacent street network.
Thank you, sir.
Questions for me, feel free. Yeah.
Just give your name.
Or husband. I was just wondering, is there like plans that get a better idea? Like you can't tell how far that's coming to our property line and the sketch that come in, if it's 10 feet, 15 feet. Like, which person would, like my house is situated close to that side on my lot. It's not in the center of the lot, maybe 15 feet from the property line. So just how close they are, like the cars that are going to be sitting there idling right close. You have your window open and fumes. I think the prevailing wind comes from that way. And is there a car wash? No, I just seen a sign up there. But is it going to be a Tim's now? You were saying Tim's, I didn't.
Yeah, it's to be determined. Nothing's been
Determined yet?
It will be some sort of
Yeah.
national brand.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. The mic's open for anyone. Just give your name, area.
Paula Redmond, and my parents live on Angus Drive. And I just want a clarification on, so this is a rezoning? Is that what we're doing? Rezoning this property?
David, can you just correct the wording?
Yeah, through the chair for Ms. Rittman, just to clarify, it's not actually a rezoning, it's what we call a site-specific exemption. So the existing zoning, the R2 remains in place. All the uses in that R2 zone are otherwise still going to be permitted. The request on behalf of Mr. Doucette and Mel's is to, in addition to those uses in the R2, to also allow for a drive-through to be a permitted use. So it's adding just a single permission for only one land use within the existing zoning. So the zoning actually won't change. It's just adding another use to that list, being a drive-through that's accessory to the existing commercial use on the adjacent lot.
So can anything else be done in the future? Like an expansion or anything like that
No.
on that property?
No, so the parcel, I'll try to highlight here. The parcel that's right here, where the drive-through expansion will be, that's going to remain R2. What you have over here is in a commercial zone. So what's being asked for tonight would not allow for any commercial uses outside of a drive-through to be built on that parcel.
For now, or?
Unless, well, forever on, unless the applicant were to circle back to the city to ask additional permission, and that would have to go through a public process again. Yep.
Okay, because I really feel for these residents that
Yeah.
are next door.
Yeah, so to clarify, and I understand the concerns, but basically no commercial structures can be erected on this lot should what's being requested tonight make its way through the process and be approved. So this is only to consider a drive-through expansion on that parcel. Okay.
Okay, because we've been through an ordeal with that business on the other side of Mel's, the corner of Angus, as you all recall. Well, not all of you. Some of you weren't here, but the old council is very familiar, and the mayor, with that fiasco that now those people are living. My parents in their senior years, who've been there for over 50 years, are living, I say, on the Las Vegas Strip. That's what it's like. So, anyway, I feel for these people, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Paula. Councillor Twill?
Thank you. I was there today trying to get an understanding of what Mr. Doucette, what Mel's are trying to achieve, and of course, trying to mirror and parallel what you would see with the other Tim Hortons throughout the city. I understand the rationale. I was here, as Mrs. Redmond pointed out, I was here with the last council, and I think the issue was never about the roundabouts or the entrances into Mel's off of St. Peter's Road. It was opening up the entrance and exit onto Angus Drive. And I don't know, Jason, if you can answer this question. or the gentleman that's with you. Currently, in terms of that section of Angus Drive, there's approximately 1,000 cars a day. With this going ahead, this site-specific going ahead and your request being approved by council, is there an anticipated increase in traffic onto Angus Drive? Once you double up the drive-through, will there be more traffic on Angus Drive besides the third entrance off of St. Peter's Road?
So I'd say there would be, so when you talk about Angus Drive, the section between St. Peter's and that driveway, I would say we'd certainly see an increase in traffic from, in that short section, right? From the driveway, yeah, certainly just because of the lack of left turning from St. Peter's Road. So that's how, if people are driving outbound from Charlottetown, that's how you get into the site because of the median across St. Peter's Roads, right? So that section between St. Peter's and the driveway on Angus, you'll see, because that'll be the main point of access for people headed in that direction, okay? Beyond that driveway, we're seeing very little traffic. We've done some preliminary traffic counts. Just the nature of the street layout to the north of the site, we don't anticipate we're going to see additional traffic beyond. That'll be mostly adjacent nearby residents that are coming to and from that property to the homeowners and residential subdivisions in that area. So we don't anticipate additional traffic beyond what just the residential neighborhoods see, and of course the growth that will happen in that area to the north of St. Peter's.
So again, if I understand it correctly, in that section of Angus Drive, the residents that live in that close proximity will experience another increase in traffic. If you had to put a percentile on it, what would that be? 15, 20, 30%, 40?
Yeah, I would say it's something in that area just because of the redistribution. So previous to the upgrade of St. Peter's, where left turns were permitted directly from St. Peter's, those are no longer permissible, right? So people have to enter the site through Angus Drive now, through the roundabout, so it's just a redistribution of traffic in that immediate area. So the driveways on St. Peter's, direct to St. Peter's, do not permit left turns into the site, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Beck?
Yeah, I want to go back, if I could direct this through to David, is that okay?
Go right ahead, sir.
Dave, if you look at the map there was an identified concern with, that was brought up at our planning board meeting about that spot right there, yep. With the third entry point, and I know it went back to the province and you were going to get an opinion on that. Can you elaborate a little bit more for us why it was decided to keep that in there, or what was the rationale for that? Excuse me.
Through the chair, Councillor Beck, I know Mr. Aitken's here tonight. I know in the comments the province DTI has said that they're accepting of 3 entrances onto St. Peter's Road for the site, but maybe I'll defer to Alan to speak further to that.
Mr. Aiken?
So from a provincial perspective, we think that separating the drive-through movement from the other driveway, that's the eastern driveway that serves the site, makes sense. We did have some concerns initially. That new driveway was shown as 2 lanes wide, and that's why we specifically indicated that it can only be right-in only and a single lane, because the way it appeared first, it could have seemed like 2 cars westbound from Surrey could turn right at the same time.
Right.
Which, if that did happen, and the one on the outer lane, the most right lane, wasn't going into Mel's, then they'd be T-boning that other car. So that's why we requested, or not requested, but indicated it can only be a single lane in. But the whole idea behind providing double the queuing length helps to ensure that there will not be any queuing on St. Peter's Road.
Okay. So I guess that was really the question that we were looking for. So you feel that it would actually be a benefit as opposed to a benefit to reducing the queuing as opposed to increasing the queuing?
Absolutely. It will eliminate or may not entirely eliminate. There may be one car sitting on St. Peter's Road once, I don't know, but it should not happen. It's pretty, you only have to look at a lot of the other drive-throughs in Charlottetown that have converted from single lane to double. And they've all reduced the potential for queuing on the road. We see it at Grafton Street, we see it at Allen Street, the main one on St. Peter's Road at Ellis Brothers is 2-lane. Now, it's probably got the longest queuing length of any of the Tim Hortons on the island, but doubling up the queue absolutely helps the potential for any queuing back out onto the highway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And again, that home, your home is directly next door to the lane, right? I'm looking here in Google Maps. I have it on my map here.
Our home?
Yeah, your home?
Our home is right where, I'll just see what I can find here. Where the drive-through is?
Yeah.
There? Well, there's a blue house.
Yeah, okay.
That would be there, and we're right beside, heading out. Ours is the yellow one right beside us. Oh.
Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to see. Okay. And again, David, this is only a site-specific amendment. It doesn't change the zoning of the area, correct?
That's correct, Mayor. Yeah.
Councillor Twill?
David, on the site-specific, does that mean, with the recommendation from staff to planning board and then planning board to council, when a site-specific is granted, does that mean there's a developer's agreement signed? Do you go so far, do you go that far to formalize it so that there's actually a written document?
Through the chair, Councillor Tweel, that's correct. Yeah, there would be a need. We would be prompted to enter into a development agreement with the owners to dial in any of those details that are specific to the development. So that would be a requirement in this case. Yes.
And the construction of a 10-foot with a berm next to the property on the east side would be in that development agreement too?
Through the chair, Your Worship, there would be a need for some form of buffering, whether that be in a board fence or vegetative screening or otherwise. That would be codified in that development agreement.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. Through the chair, yeah, the screening and buffering would have to be along any boundary between the site and any sensitive uses that bound it. So again, those details would be worked out through.
Like 150 feet from the sidewalk to our backyard.
Yeah. So through the chair, to address the resident's question, there would be required buffering and screening that would have to be provided to protect the adjacent uses from the drive-through, and those details would be, again, legally codified through the future development agreement.
And in the agreement, right? The development.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay. No more? Okay. Mr. Doucette, Mr. McDonald, thank you kindly. Mr. Aiken, thank you very much. You're not staying for the last one? You can stay. We'll give you some water, cup of coffee. Huh? Okay. Okay. So the next application is Deputy Mayor, we're going to go to the next application, 20 St. Martha's Court, Lot 2019-3, PID number 115494-7, Brandon Archibald, correct? Brandon Archibald, one of our staff members with the Department of Development, and David Gundram is with him. And Aaron Stafford will be presenting on behalf of the applicant. Good to see you, Aaron. Okay. Do you want to go?
Thank you, Your Worship. Let me just skip through this. So yeah, we're going through a development concept plan amendment for 20 St. Martha's Court. I would just like to point out that it is strictly for Lot 219-3, or PID number 1154947. So some background on this. In November 2018, City Council passed a resolution to approve a maximum of 88 dwelling units for the development of 2 apartment dwellings between the 2 lots of 2019-3 and 2019-4. And then again, in July of 2023, City Council passed another resolution for Lot 2019-3 to have 43 units and 2019-4 to have 45, for a total of 48 units. At Lot 2019-4, a building permit was shortly issued, which that apartment dwelling is currently under construction. So for legislative requirements, on January 9th, we sent out notification letters to all property owners within 100 meters of the subject property. We didn't receive any responses by the Planning and Heritage Department, and so that was good on that front. Here's just a quick overview of the site plan of the 2. Lot 3 is the one further back. So this is Lot 3. It looks identical to Lot 4. So the request here is to amend the development agreement for Lot 2019-3. The current agreement allows for 43 units. We are looking to increase that to 48 units. And between lots 2019-3 and 2019-4, that would result in 93 units combined. Important thing to note is there's no exterior or design changes for this building. Only the interior will be reconfigured to allow for those extra units. And here's some more drawings of the proposed development. So due to no design changes being required to increase the number of units in the apartment dwelling, the Planning and Heritage Department believes that this proposal is consistent with the current development concept plan and will therefore improve the quantity and selection of housing for residents. And I'd like to call upon the applicant, Aaron Stavert, to present his side.
Thank you, everyone. Again, as introduced, I guess my name is Aaron Stafford. I'm an architect with Open Practice. We did the initial master plan development for this CDA zone back in 2018, as Brandon introduced. So I just thought I'd take a quick minute. We feel like it's a fairly straightforward ask in terms of we're not looking to change the designs. Essentially, what we're looking at is building number 1 started construction kind of August of last year. It's in progress, and in looking at building number 2, you know, for efficiencies and in developing the concept, we have 2 buildings that are kind of creating an entry courtyard. They're similar in designs. In the first building, the developer chose to build some 3-bedroom apartments within the building. So what they're on the second building, just due to some of the market demands and some of the things they've learned, they're going to split those 3-bedroom units into 2 1-bedroom units. So fairly straightforward. I think this is the proposed plan. So the changes are really happening in this corner. We're splitting what is 1 3-bedroom in the original design into 2 1-bedrooms. And then these are just some renderings showing, this is views from St. Martha's Court. So 2 buildings that are kind of flanking a kind of temporary drop-off and guest parking, and just showing the streetscape of those 2 buildings. And this is the view from the Confederation Trail. So again, the very minor changes, some window changes to allow for those, you know, 2 units, but really no footprint change, no significant change to the design of the buildings. So unless there's any specific questions, to address parking. The developer has chosen to offer about 1.3 parking spaces per unit, which is well over the required 1 space per unit. And they felt that was important just based on what they're seeing in the market. So there's ample underground parking and surface parking for these two projects. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. Thank you. Brandon? I don't know. Do we have any questions from the gallery? Okay. Councillor McKinnon?
No. 2 is ahead of me.
Yep. Councillor, go ahead, Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So the only thing that we're looking at is the change is all interior, correct? Is what I'm saying, or what I'm hearing?
Yeah, correct.
Like, there's nothing changing on the outside. You're not adding on to the building or anything. Okay, great. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Councillor McKinnon?
Just a quick question. What you're saying, you're getting rid of 3-bedroom apartments to go down to 2 1-bedroom apartments. I fielded 2 questions today from residents saying they're having trouble finding 3-bedroom apartments, and that's regarding to the complex that we were talking about earlier. So is there no demand out there for 3 bedrooms?
As the architect, I guess I'm not the developer in these. I think that they are learning from, the construction of the first one and whether there's lack of interest in those 3-bedroom units or not. Now, they will have the advantage of, I guess, building the first building, and it should be substantially complete probably before they're getting into this one. So there may be the opportunity there for them, if they rent up quickly and they see there's demand, I'm sure, the opportunity to go back to those 3 bedrooms. But I think the intention, it's really a question for the developer, I guess. They're not seeing the demand for the 3 bedrooms and chose to go to the 1-bedroom units.
And the developer is here, Chris. Is it Chris or Colin? So if Colin, if you wish to come up to the mic, just introduce yourself, Colin.
Hi, Colin McQuillan with Fitzgerald & Snow and Haven Holdings as part of the developer for this project. So with the 3-bedroom, the ask about the 3 bedrooms, it's just based on our own experience of what we've seen just on the incremental people calling for build number 1 so far. We don't have statistical data that's telling us, so it's based on what we've seen personally with the request right now. So it's providing more units per the same floor area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Any other questions?
Any other questions to the developer, Aaron or Brandon? Councillor Twill?
No, just want to wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Twill. Thank you. Thank you. Did you say bonne chance? Bonne chance?
No, I said you have no chance.
Great presentation, Brandon. Thank you very much. Did a great job there. And David, thank you. Aaron, Colin. Okay, that concludes that. But now I have to go to a motion to adjourn. Motion moved. A second by you, Councillor Twill. Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much.